numerous campaign violations. The ISC records demonstrates that Representative Santos knowingly and actively participated in this conduct. Mr. Speaker, through records that were subpoenaed by the Ethics Committee, we learned that Mr. Santos spent campaign-related funds on personal rent, on personal credit card payments, on ATM withdrawals. We know that he purchased luxury designer purchases at least 2 high-end stores. Then he spent money on payments made at OnlyFans. And that Mr. Santos spent almost $3,000 on Botox treatments. In addition to these questionable expenses, there were travel expenses, questionable expenses, involving trips to Atlantic City, Las Vegas, Nevada, and the Hamptons. Mr. Speaker, in addition to this, there was additional fraud that was uncovered and contained in this report issued by the Ethics Committee. The Ethics Committee found that in 2020, that bank records indicate that Mr. Santos was repaid over $29,000 for fictitious loans that he never made his campaign. The report goes on to say that in 2021, that he falsely reported loaning his campaign $580,000, and he falsely reported loaning an additional $25,000 to his leadership PAC. The report goes on to document that the committee found, according to bank records, that Mr. Santos transferred $200,000 from Redstone Strategies, an entity found to be an unregistered super PAC controlled by Mr. Santos, that he transferred in 2022 alone over $200,000 into his personal account.
Whatever these MAGA Republicans are doing, it's incredibly weird, incredibly disturbing, and no American should look at this behavior and say, this is normal. This is not what politics is about. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. I refuse to be gaslighted by legacy media and by others to say that what you're seeing there and in these other clips I'm about to show you is just politics. It's MAGA, it's strange, it's bizarre. Like, I want to show you this right here, as there was a debate on the expulsion of George Santos. You had Max Miller attacking George Santos then attacking MAGA Republican Max Miller and saying that he engaged in abusing women, and they're all pointing at each other for who the MAGA Republicans are. You abused women, no, you abused this person. Here, watch this.
I myself have been a victim of George Santos, and as well as other members of Congress, in terms of defrauding through public donations. I had received an ethics complaint from the FEC, which I had to spend tens of thousands to defend myself. You, sir, are a crook. I know I should direct my comments to the chair. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from New York, Mr. Santos, is recognized.
I'd like to move to have the gentleman from Ohio's words stricken from the record, please.
Gentleman's request is not timely, but the chair will remind all members to direct their remarks to the chair and not to others.
Gentleman's request is not timely, but I would remind members to direct their remarks to the chair. Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, hypocrisy, as I mentioned. My colleague wants to come up here, call me a crook. Same colleague who's accused of being a woman beater. Are we really going to ignore the facts that we all have passed and we all have the media coming out against us on a daily basis?
I could show you many more of these clips, by the way, like same debate on the House floor. This is Matt Gaetz, MAGA Republican, saying that George Santos should not be expelled because his situation is very similar to Duncan Hunter, Republican, who was not expelled from the House after being convicted. And Duncan Hunter also had lots of lovers on the side who he was funneling money to, which I think Gaetz is saying it should not be subject to expulsion. Play this clip.
It was a procedural double bind that shouldn't be held against Mr. Santos as some sort of adverse inference. Let's also talk about this precedent. The fact pattern as to Mr. Santos is remarkably similar to the fact pattern of former Representative Duncan Hunter. Duncan Hunter used campaign money on girlfriends and trips and home improvements and all sorts of personal lavishes. He was indicted for those crimes and continued to serve in Congress. He pled guilty to a number of those crimes and continued to serve in Congress. He was in Congress for like an additional pay period after having pled guilty to the very same things that Mr. Santos has been indicted for. And so
Here's MAGA Republican Clay Higgins just being weird.
Calm down. Mr. Speaker, I've spoken for 7 years to this body here, standing here. And very rarely have I had a prepared statement, nor do I today, but I'm going to read.
Here's MAGA Republican Lauren Boebert spending her time attacking a Social Security Administration counselor who was there to testify, and the counselor just completely obliterates her. Here, watch what happens over here.
You all are allowing delinquent employees to sit on their sofas at home instead of actually getting to work and doing their jobs. This is absolutely unacceptable.
So our employees are working whether they are in the office or at home, and they are.
Are you monitoring the work that they are doing from home on a regular basis?
Yes, we are.
Every employee, do you have the numbers of the hours that are submitted? Are you counting how many times they're logging into their computers and responding to casework?
So our employees are subject to the same performance management processes and oversight they are whether they're teleworking or working in an office. And we have systems in place that our managers use to schedule, assign, and track workloads. And that includes individual employee workloads in many cases. So real-time understanding of what actions are being processed at any particular given time. Additionally, our employees are required to be accessible to their supervisors, clients, colleagues, and external parties during work hours via a variety of means, including instant messaging, video platforms, and telephone. They are connected to the workplace, whether they are in the office or at the home.
Then why is the backlogs for Social Security applicants increased from 41,000 to 107,000?
Because we've been historically underfunded for a number of years now.
I don't think you're underfunded. You're funded at the Nancy Pelosi levels. At the Democrat levels, we just continued that same funding.
So I would say
at pandemic level spending.
So I'd say we'd have an increase of over 8 million beneficiaries over the last 10 years. At the same time, we experienced our lowest work staffing levels at the end of FY22. That's a math problem. I mean, that is a problem. If you have those workloads, increasing, and you don't have the staff to take care of those workloads, you're going to have the backlogs that you're talking about, Representative.
Well, I would love to see.
Geology is a 26-time award-winning skin, hair, and body care company recognized in Men's Health, Hypebeast, Birdie, Esquire, Ask Men, and Oprah Daily Grooming Awards. Geology creates simple and effective skincare and hair care routines customized just for you with ingredients that are proven to work. Their products are built around just a handful of powerful, proven ingredients that have been trusted by dermatologists for a decade. With over 7,000 5-star reviews, it's clear that people truly love the product. My skin looks so much better now that I'm using the Geology skincare that they sent to me. My skin's so much smoother, and it's become a wonderful daily routine to make sure that my skin stays clear. The moisturizing morning cream and everyday face wash has become my absolute favorite. Geology is spelled Geologie, and it helps fight acne, reduce oiliness, prevent wrinkles, combat dark or puffy under eyes, have smoother and hydrated skin, and it targets signs of aging. Right now, for a limited time, they're hooking you up with an absolutely insane offer. Head to geolog.ie/MeidasTouch70 or scan the QR code on the screen and use code MeidasTouch70, and they'll give you an exclusive 70% off their award-winning skincare trial set. On top of that, you can save big on the add-on products of your choice when you add it to your trial. Thank you, Geology, for partnering with us.
Here's MAGA Republican Bob Good talking about how bad Republicans are. Play this clip.
In the House of Representatives, we have not shown a demonstrated desire to cut our spending, even with the Republican majority. What I just described is happening on our watch, and we have nothing to show to this point when it comes to spending with a Republican majority in the House.
And here is James Comer, MAGA Republican chair of the Oversight Committee, resorting to name calling and saying that the reason that he doesn't want to have a public hearing to allow Hunter Biden to testify publicly, he says, is because Little Moskowitz, he calls him Little Moskowitz, and starts using ad hominem attacks. Play this clip.
But, you know, as these congressional investigation, these hearings go, you've got 20 members on each side that have 5 minutes each. We have tens of thousands of pages of documents where we need to sit down and ask specific substantive questions without filibustering, without interruptions, without going 5 minutes back and forth with Jamie Raskins and Dan Goldman and Little Moskowitz jumping up and down, filing motions and trying to disrupt the committee hearings.
And folks, all they do is bully. They're just bullies. Name calling, bullying. It's the image of Donald Trump. And here, MAGA Mike just totally gaslights and says, well, the impeachments against Donald Trump were not proper. Here, watch this.
We lamented openly. We decried how the Democrats politicized that process. They were brazenly political, and how they brought those meritless impeachment charges against the president. This, what you're seeing here, is exactly the opposite. We are the rule of law team. The Republican Party stands for the rule of law. And the people in charge of this are doing this thoroughly, carefully, methodically. They're investigating and gathering all the facts. And to do this appropriately and to do it in a manner that upholds our constitutional responsibility requires time. It requires a sound process. You don't rush something like this. You can't if you're going to have fidelity to the Constitution. These chairmen are committed to proceeding in that manner. And that's what you're seeing.
Okay, now take what I just showed you and let's compare that with here's Democratic Congress members Jared Moskowitz and Dan Goldman. Watch this.
We've seen for a year now the Republicans have presented no evidence, but instead Hunter has said, no, if you're going to come at me in the news media for the last year and say all of these things, I'm going to come and I'm going to get the truth out there. And now Republicans are scrambling because I think the American people want to hear from Hunter Biden. The American people want to see it in public. Republicans saying, oh no, transparency, bad. If they had the evidence, if they had overwhelming evidence on Hunter Biden, rest assured Chairman Clouseau would have a public hearing with every media you can imagine. I mean, he'd be sitting down with Al Jazeera to tell them all of the overwhelming evidence he had on Hunter Biden in a public setting. He would love that, but the reason they don't want that to happen is because they don't have the evidence. They just want to talk to their echo chamber. The chairman just wants to run to Sean Hannity like a wet blanket, and they wanted to say Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden. If you have the evidence, show it to the American people in a public hearing.
Here's Democratic Congresswoman Summer Lee talking about the MAGA Republican tax scams. Play this clip.
Republicans passed tax handouts for their filthy rich donors, promising a trickle-down miracle that never has and will never happen, from Reaganomics to the Trump tax scam. Then, when their tax scam causes the economy to slow and deficits to grow, they refuse to correct their mistake. Instead, they blame immigrants, poor folks, black folks, and brown folks. Next, Republicans pretend to panic and call for devastating cuts to Social Security and Medicare that would force Americans to work longer for less and tear away their hard-earned retirement and end Medicare as we know it.
Of course, here's Vice President Harris saying, you really are trying to make a claim that the former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, is a good negotiator. I don't think he should really be applauding his negotiation skills. I don't know, given everything that's happened. Play this clip.
Kevin McCarthy was here this morning, and he was, in very stark terms, effectively said that he did not believe that President Biden was the same President Biden that he used to talk to. Went so far as to say that when they were having the debt negotiations, that he didn't even think he was negotiating with him, that he thought he was looking at cards, and that if the information effectively wasn't on the cards, he wasn't able to do it.
With all due respect, when anyone who has had the experience that he has most recently had, I don't think he's a judge of negotiations.
And finally, I'll play us out with Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Have had her on the show before. She's incredible. Watch this.
It's us, not, and Jim Jordan is on here too. Now talk about sending out a subpoena and telling somebody to come in and testify before a congressional hearing. Jim Jordan still ain't showed up for his hearing, but he wants to be there. He wants to be able to question, but they know how epically they failed in all of their hearings.
There you have it, folks. Democrats in action. Republicans in action. Tell me how you feel in the comments. Just show you the clips. Just show you how they've been spending the last 24, 48 hours. You judge. You decide. That's what they're doing. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Have a great one.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.